have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
You have a forum.
Yes.
All right, well, let's call the meeting to order of the Service Committee. Would you call the roll for forum,
Okay.
please, Angela?
Mr. Brennan? Mr. Farges? Ms. Gleason?
Yes.
Ms. Herbert?
Yes.
Ms. Mood?
Yes. Want to see if any of our advisory members are on.
I didn't call Ms. Teresia,
All right.
Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Coon, and Ms. Robinson.
Okay. Forum, then I'll need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Thanks. In a second.
Second, this is Tina.
Could have a second and call the roll again, please.
Mr. Brennan, Mr. Farges, Ms. Gleason,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert,
Yes.
Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Ms. Teresia.
So the agenda is adopted, and we'll move to number 3 and hear from the Midlands Transit Riders Association. Steve Walter on there, Mr. Durst.
I am here.
All right.
Okay, thanks. I had a call from a rider who lives out on off of Park Lane Road, and in those apartments, I think they're called Spring Tree. And if you will recall, back in the day, the 55X was the bus that went directly from downtown to Sand Hills. And then it was taken out and replaced by Route 75, which goes from Walmart on Forest Drive over to the Midlands Tech Northeast and goes down Park Lane. This is really for the staff more than the committee, but in view of the fact that Route 75 really does more, it goes more places than 55X did, I think it would be nice if y'all would reach out to those apartments on Park Lane and just let them know about the advantages of that route, and maybe, you know, show them the times and stuff like that. So I'd appreciate if y'all would do that. Also, and just parenthetically, I just got a note from a friend of mine who I went to high school with, and she wants to get her grandchildren to ride the bus. And so I'm going to be reaching out with her about how to do that, and I find that to be a very positive thing. The last thing is that we're congratulating, I know everybody is, Blake's new adventure that he's going to have after graduating from university. I know that we're going to miss him, but he's got a lot of great things coming his way. So congratulations to Blake. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, and we'll just add our words of congratulations and well wishes, but we're going to miss you. You want to say anything to this group, Blake?
Yeah, I was gonna mention my report later on, but yeah, I mean, it's been amazing working with everyone over the past 2 years. It has flown by really fast. I'm excited to get my start in transit right here in my hometown. So I'm looking forward to the future of transit, not only in Columbia, but the United States, as well as I expand my career with VIA up in New York.
And you're talking up internships at the university, but while you're still there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I started here when I was sophomore, December 2020. So I've been with the comm as long as I've been with USC almost.
And lived through some interesting times here. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more action-packed time to be working in transit for sure. Well, we all wish you well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blake. And thank you, Walter. Let me ask you just a couple of things. One, that I was taking that the call that you got was someone that just wanted to know more about what service was available to those apartments that you mentioned. And I'm thinking, I don't have an image of that complex in my head, but are there places that are available that we might even put up posters like in a common area to alert people to comment service?
Yeah, I would think so. The Spring Tree Apartments are on Park Lane right before you get, if you're going toward Farrow Road, they're on the left just before you get to I-20. And there are some Section 8 housing that's available there, which means that they don't have cars. And it's kind of far to walk to the grocery store, which is why we did the 55X to go down Park Lane to pick those people up. And I guess now that they don't know where the 75 goes,
We'll just ask the staff to just explore what the possibilities are of raising some awareness for that group of residents.
yeah, that's what I would think too.
And then I'll ask, and really ask this a question for the staff too, for the grandmother who wants her children to learn to ride. I guess the best person for her to contact would be Brittany or would she just call it in and just see?
We probably need a little bit more detail
Okay.
there, but.
Well, so if the person that expressed the interest
Yeah.
just calls into the comment, then you all can.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I'll get her phone number and pass it on to y'all.
okay.
That sounds good. Okay, thank you so much for that report.
Thanks.
Ms. Mood,
Yes,
Ms.
Ms. Clayton.
Booth.
Yes, Ms. Clayton.
okay, I was out there the other day out there at Sand Hill, and I saw how that 75 and all those buses came up there, and they were really making real good connections right there.
Good.
Because I was there, yes, ma'am, I was watching them, and the drivers got off, there, and they were very nice, very polite to everybody, and making sure, and it was about 4 or 5 buses right there at the same time, and they picked up those passengers and went on. Yeah, because I was going out to Sand Hill.
Well, thanks
Yes,
for
ma'am.
that. We always like your eyewitness reports.
Thank
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right.
All right, so then we need to adopt the minutes from March 8th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion we adopt the minutes.
All right, do I have a second? I'll second. And we call the roll for approval.
Mr. Brennan, Mr. Burgess, Ms. Gleason,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert,
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Racio.
Okay, so the minutes are adopted and we'll move on then to 5A on the passenger amenities program. There's Mr. McGee. Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. I guess reporting on the last month, AOS has completed stops number 1654 and 325 on Broad River Road. And we have also continued to coordinate with the Comet on ongoing projects. And we had a few stops that did not make the report, but we've had a few requests in the last week or two from the Comet. So we'll be looking into those this coming month.
So we have a list in Zach's written report. Are there any questions or comments from anyone on the committee? Okay, then we thank you for that update and we'll go on to 5B, Lucius and Rivers Super Stop. Leroy, you're gonna give us an update on that?
We'll let Eric go first, I think, here.
Okay.
Hey, how's it going, y'all? For some odd reason, I'm having trouble with my video here, but can you hear me?
We hear you fine. Thanks, Eric.
Oh, okay. All right. So again, thank you to the members of the committee. The Lucius Road project has finally reached 100% financially complete and 100% physically complete. So it's been a long time coming, but it is finally there and it's here to stay. So we want to make sure we get everything off the ground in an orderly fashion. The only outstanding item with the last report that I received from the contractor was the security camera installation, but that should be installed at this point. The contractor is also working on getting the certified payroll of all work completed on the project to gather all DBE required information for our internal use. As previously mentioned, the project will be subdivided into phases, with the first phase being initiated in September of this year. And with that being said, staff has been able to meet and discuss some of the public outreach strategies, and we plan to start off with the kickoff meeting with Reginald Simmons at the COG. Just want to brief him and make sure he's well aware of what has been discussed and in our plans going forward. But we also want to make sure we meet with the City of Columbia, because that's ultimately why we're here in the first place, and make sure that they are able to bless the plans as well. And so we plan to meet with Missy Gentry and some of their planning staff and go from there and see if they have any additional comments. And of course, we want to coordinate with Derek Pugh and Tina Herbert as well to make sure we're doing everything in our, we're in lockstep. That's what we want to do as we move forward. But in the midst, we will be coordinating with neighborhood associations. And Pam, if you would like to provide more information around this, please feel free to chime in.
Sure. So we'll be reaching out to the Richland County Neighborhood Association, as well as the Columbia Consortium of Neighborhoods. Earlwood, because it is adjacent to that neighborhood, and also across the street with Riverview Terrace and Broad River Heights. We'll be reaching out to them as well. There is a Broad River Business Association. Some of you met Mr. Javar Juarez, who came to one of our meetings a few months ago. We'll reach out to him, and we'll also be conducting a Facebook Live. And also reaching out to media outlets.
And so the timetable then for the public information and then the feedback to the board for the board's final blessing of the phase 1 changes, and this would be
In May and June.
in May and June. Okay.
We would hope to be finished before July.
Okay.
That is
That would give people too. So we won't see activity at the super stop until September, when all of this is complete.
Correct.
And that still gives us a little bit of a window to work on the other pending issue, and that's access to restrooms. So what's happening in that arena?
Yeah. So we've had discussions around that as well. So that would be a part of the discussion with Missy Gentry as well. We are aware that IWC, they're using some alternative restrooms as well. So maybe that can be a temporary fix that we can mimic. So it's like a common practice. And what we want to do is start there and kind of work on the scope to see if we can get a permanent solution installed at that location.
And is that when you say that, I mean, does that mean applying for additional funds or what? Or do you have existing funding to?
Yeah, so it may require additional funding. And I think another part of the discussion is coordinating with our grants department to see what we have available. So
It might be utilized.
yeah, exactly. But on the short end, we do know we have funds available to kind of go out and purchase some of, I guess, what is considered more so the standard, what has been accepted. We're just looking at IWC as that standard right now.
Right, now tell me again, Eric, what IWC is.
Inclement Weather Center. So it's yeah. So it's just an extension of the City of Columbia and the Transition Center. But
That's where folks, that's where we send homeless folks
Yep.
can sleep overnight when the weather is extremely cold.
Right, I'm just trying, and so you're just saying the kind of facilities that are available there might be a standard for the kind of facilities we would need at the super stop.
Yeah.
Oh, those are nice.
absolutely.
They're pretty nice.
And I'll just kind of pick up here a couple things that we have to work through too, and it will takes everybody's effort to coordinate this, is as we look to make this an option. Since this project was first initiated, it didn't include restrooms. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to look at the project differently, especially from a federal standpoint and federal funds. So what I'd like to do now, and I think she's in the meeting, is Eric mentioned our grants person, but our Michelle Ransom. I'll let her kind of address that and just kind of bring you up to date that if we go that route, there are other things that we have to look at and consider and requirements that we have to meet also. Michelle?
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, I just, first of all, I'd like to caution everyone that we can't just immediately change the scope of this project. It was presented to the neighborhoods as well as to FTA as a super stop, which is just a glorified bus stop with extra shelters and extra room. There were to be no facilities, no buildings on this location. And that's how we got the grant funding. If we choose to do something more with that, first of all, there would need to be a demand for it. And I know that it seems to make sense that that would immediately be a concern, but I would suggest we don't apply for those funds until we have started service there. I know people are currently seeing the progress over there, but they're not seeing the buses over there. So I don't think the feds would appreciate or understand us asking for money that may or may not be needed to put in facilities that may or may not be needed. I'm not saying that we need to have a huge demand, but we at least need to be using the location, in my mind, before we have a reason to apply for the fund. I don't think it would be any big deal to get the funds. I think we could get the funding once we had some cost estimates, but it would also have to be done through a competitive procurement. We'd have to do public involvement with the neighborhoods because now it is something else entirely. We would have to take into consideration the cost of having security available there. And if you wanted to make it more, than just restrooms, then if you're going to put ticket sales or anything like that over there, that's also a consideration. But my main goal is to educate everyone that it can't just be added to it. This makes it a completely different project, and we'd have to have RFP go out to have vendors bid to complete the project. So we need to know what the scope is. I mean, it has to be a whole separate project. We did not sell it to the neighborhoods as anything more than a transfer.
Wait for multiple buses to change.
Correct.
Transfer.
Correct.
Well, Michelle, I appreciate your insight and really making us aware up front of what has to be done. I'm thinking though, I really hope we don't wait until we start service and then you start service and then it appears to be, oh my gosh, they didn't think of this ahead of time. I want us to be ahead of the curve on this. And I'm thinking that our public information, getting public input on the super stop itself may be a way to having those conversations. The questions may come from the potential riders about, well, what happens here in terms of if we're going to change buses here, what about the restrooms? That's what we do at the transit center. That if we can get that into and as a part of the conversation in the public outreach, that may give us enough indication of need that we don't have to wait until to get started on the process that you described until after September. That feels that does, when we are aware of it as we are, not only for our riders, but our drivers. That was part of what came up in terms of ones that are on a route that then changes there.
Yes.
And the lack of access to other available restroom facilities. I mean, the nearest one would be the service station all the way across the main road, which would not be.
Or this location, which has sidewalks to it, yes.
Right, not be walked.
And other
So,
super stops.
I just don't want us to be behind in the process when we ought to be trying to get ahead of it.
But Michelle, does that change or would that help the process any if it was done through that process?
Well, I mean,
Or is it still more, you feel from the Fed standpoint, of service
Well, it
actually
seems
being
like
from.
what we're talking about with public involvement now is for the existing project. And correct me if I'm wrong. Also, we need to keep in mind, we have other super stops and none of them have restroom facilities.
But what I've been told, Michelle, is that the other super stops have commercial establishments nearby with restrooms, so people can access restroom facilities. That's what makes this one kind of unique, that it's.
They could also come to this location while in an interim, if there is an interim. I mean, it's a little bit of ways to walk, but it is an option. Just to keep that out there.
Now say that again.
They could come to the Lucius Road
Oh, over
facility.
here.
Sidewalk all the way down Lucius Road, so it's a relatively safe walk. It is a little bit of a distance, but you know, if necessary, it's something that could be done in the interim.
So we could consider that. And that's a good point. I would ask Jackie, Mr. Cooksey, about what that does to people's transit ride. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've got a kind of a pulsing system there at the super stop,
It's not.
I
gonna be
don't
that long.
envision
Yeah,
time
it's
to
not
get
feasible.
down here and back
Yeah.
between,
That wouldn't work. That would undo all the work that we've done over the last year and a half.
to try to make those.
And two, so just to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. So, Michelle, is that for, is that for a permanent facility out there or would that still, would we still be able to move forward with some of the temporary?
Well, I mean, if you're doing temporary to permanent, then yeah, you gotta tell the public, we're gonna have restrooms on this, at this bus stop. Is essentially what we're saying. What we told everybody was gonna be a bus stop is now gonna have restrooms.
And your point about that really the public outreach for now is for the phase one changes. But what I'm thinking is that the phase one changes to bring routes to Lucius Road. I mean, that's part of that's part of the essence of those changes. And so if I'm a rider or potential rider that see that my route is going to take me through there, it seems natural that I might raise a question in the course of the public comment and public outreach about, well, what about this? You know, that's what.
And then
That's
that
what I
could be the springboard for the additional project.
Yes,
a completely
yes.
new project with community input.
yes.
And maybe we do something temporary until we see how much need is over there to see what kind of scope we'd have to do, you know. How much of the
I
building.
think that I'm not in the loop for a lot of the feedback and discussion on an everyday basis, but I think the public reaction to temporary facilities like that seems a more negative thing. I get a more negative reaction to that
Yeah,
than trying to plan for facilities there, which is, I understand that's a much larger project, but I mean, particularly for neighborhoods, you know, that, I think that would be a negative. But we can hear from people, because my view might not be the, surprise, my view might not be the only one.
Yeah, the ones they use at the IWC, when I say temporary, because you can move them, they're mobile.
Mhm.
Those are very nice.
But not like porta.
Not the blue porta potties, but
Okay.
I'm thinking it's a little more.
Okay, and I'm just not
At
familiar with
another
that.
level, right? So
But I
I
heard that-
consider that, to me, that's temporary because you can pick it up and move it, but
Okay.
it's a much nicer.
So Ms. Herbert, that was what you were saying too, wasn't it?
Yes, they play music. It's a very comfortable environment. They're really, really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think this is where it's important, like Eric mentioned about involving all the partnerships, the city and everyone, it's Herbert and all, because I think it is a community effort. You know, I know as far as when Michelle mentions about federal fund, that brings up other things, but I think if you have everybody working together and they see the complexity of what we're working with, I think we can get through this. Because on the backside of whatever decision we make first, we have to look at security. You know, we have to look at, well, even if they may be temporary janitor and laundry, then I think one thing we have to consider also too is security as far as fencing in the location. So all those things we have to work through also too, as a staff. So,
Okay, and I'm thinking, my mind goes to when you install restroom facilities, we're talking about a whole infrastructure
yes.
of plumbing and everything else, so just need to start digging up again when we just, when we just smooth it over. But I guess my main point is that in this round of meetings that you already have scheduled and that you'll be participating in, let's don't ignore this elephant in the room. I mean, let's don't pretend we hadn't thought about this. Let's, I think it's to our benefit to put that out there on the table up front and try to work through what the options are with people.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question, Ms. Moon.
Yes, Ms. Clayton.
Okay, they had, I was out there at Columbia Mall, I think it was Friday, I believe it was. And they have restrooms, I think I did, because I thought I saw people going in there. I was on the bus. So don't they have restrooms already out there at Columbia Mall? At that stop?
Not at, are you, Ms. Clayton, are you talking at the stop or the actual mall facility itself?
I'm talking about in the back of the mall back there where you change the buses, because I got on 501 coming back home. I came from Sand Hill.
That's part of the mall. They going in the mall area.
Yeah, in the back of Columbia Mall.
Jackie says that that they're accessing facilities that are part of the mall. They're not a part of the bus stop.
Right.
Okay, I know I saw some people going in there when I was, and I was just wondering. Okay, then. Well, okay, all right, thank you.
All right. Okay, well, thanks for that update, and we're getting there. All right. Now, 5C, Transit Operations Report, Mr. Cookson.
Yes, won't take too much of your time on a beautiful day today. So we'll just jump right in. I know we moved away from the ad hoc committee related to COVID.
Yeah.
I still kept the slide in until May 11th, which is when the emergency declaration officially ends.
And in fact, it's probably, from the board action, it really is to just fold that into our regular report. So that's not inappropriate for us to continue. It's
Okay.
just not to have a separate meeting item.
Fantastic. So nothing has been reported to me in reference to staffing. I know there's a new variant, Arcturus. There's this is like, I think you even said it last time, this is probably with us forever. So there'll always be something, and I think what's seen in that one is just more so newer symptoms in children as opposed to the Omicron variant. So, but again, I don't really have any more at this time to report on that. So life has moved forward in that area. As far as customer service complaint rate, had a good month. So that number's down. So that's a great thing that we continue to work on, work in that area, just educating on our operators on just doing a better job in that area. I mean, we did see like I said, decrease in that area. What I mentioned last go round was I would include this time and going forward, we have we do something called customer's point of view, which allows us to have what they call mystery riders. And so I included some questions and some things that they do as far as the mystery rider program. And the next two slides are really around those. And I put these in here, we kind of talk through them, or just so you can kind of see the types of things we're asking and looking for. I put a little highlight on the first one, as far as my notes, because, operator's appearance is acceptable within commonly recognized standards for professional appearance. That's something that, we strive to do better. Because sometimes you're wearing these vests, you're doing pre-trips, they get dirty, so we're constantly trying to change those out. Our dispatchers are also required as someone leaves, they check in and get their work, making sure they're in the proper uniform. We also have a couple of mannequins set up on what the proper uniform looks like, if you've been in our operator lounge. So that's something that, and I mentioned that because every once in a while we'll get a complaint that, a person may have looked a little disheveled or whatever the case might be. So, I mean, that's something that we constantly looking at and refreshing our safety vests. You'd be surprised what a nice, bright, clean vest will do, you know, as opposed to one that someone's been wearing for 3 or 4 months that, you know, just from checking things, has like a little grease and stuff on it. But again, these are some of the questions. You know, did the operator provide departing remarks as you alighted the bus? The bus start and stops, you know, were they smooth, you know, versus, you know, the road conditions. So these are the things in this area as far as the operator that we do. And so I want, you know, just kind of share that. And what happens, I get a report, and I forward this up to like our safety manager, or they get a copy of this, operations manager, the comment, Jackie. So everybody can kind of see, because there may be certain areas on this report that pertain to a certain area, right? So everybody's seeing it, and that way we can focus. And if there's something that we need to zero in on, then we can circle back and, you know, pull the video, take a look, see if it's yes or yay or nay, or is it a real issue? So we, that's the kind of the extent of how we're digging down into our, you know, making sure we're providing the best service. And we have the people providing the best service that we can. And this kind of also helps us focus on our customer service training. Like, what area do we need to focus in? Because we keep seeing a lot of, you know, negative remarks in one area. Well, maybe we need to do something different. It might, you know, it might be us, because these are random. So it's going to more than likely be different people at different times. So, you know, you'll be able to get an idea if you really do have a trend there, as opposed to one individual person. Looking at it's also, I pulled one for driver safety. And here is, you know, some of the questions we have here. You know, I highlighted a couple of my end. You know, did the operator stop for all passengers? Did the operator stop at all requested stops? And I highlighted those because we do hear, you know, the person passed me up, or the bus passed me up. You know, that's always, everywhere I've been in all the different areas that I've had an opportunity to manage, it just always seems to be like one of the top, the hot ones, right? So, you know, this helps us also see, now I just randomly pulled this one, it happened to be a good one, so. This actually helps us see, I just randomly pulled it. Had to say that, you're probably wondering, why is all this green? But, you know, so this kind of helps us with that, because, you know, that's something we take out very seriously. You know, we're here to pick people up, we're here to offer the service. We can't do that if we're not making sure that we're making the proper stops, that, you know, when people need, when they're requesting the stop, that we're doing it. And because we're also able to drill down, and we know when we do get a complaint, about 50 to 55% of them aren't valid in reference to this particular issue, but it's still something we have to watch. It used to be really, really high, and then it kind of goes and it ebbs and flows. So you constantly have to do reminders of that, hey, you know, we're here to pick people up, right? So, and, you know, as the operator wearing the seatbelt, you know, maintaining proper distance when they pull up to the stop, are they stopping all the way? So these are all the things that we're looking at closely. So, you know, there's a couple of more areas, and next month I'll be sharing those out, but I wanted everyone to see the level that we're looking at.
And these riders, the mystery riders, do they just ride, they are somewhere on the bus almost all the time? But
Yes, like I wouldn't even know who they are. So
it's an ongoing.
It's ongoing. It's ongoing. Yes. So this is constantly ongoing, and it's an outside third party, which is great, because even myself, no one knows. They provide the data, they report. Now, if we see something that may look like, well, wait a minute, they'll go back to that person, that rider that is doing it, and maybe ask some questions. But it's completely out of our control, and so it's provided to us. So we feel pretty confident it's real information and real concerns that are out there. So they do a good job of that. So, and we actually get a percentage score, and I'll be including that as we learn more about this on how we did for the, you know, month, were 90% or 80%. So we do have a real number to measure, and I'll start reporting out on that. But again, just wanted to kind of share what we're doing on the customer's point of view. I included some employee recognition. So Satara Lopez was our employee of the month. So she's fantastic. She's a great advocate for transit, and we want to thank her for all she does. She actually ended up winning third place in the bus rodeo as well. So,
Oh, my goodness.
yep. So she, it was her like first go round, basically. So, like to thank her and for continue to be just that beacon of light, which is always nice to have, right? I included just some pictures. I said I would last time. The bus rodeo pictures on the right side of that. So these two pictures are all the winners. So we wanted to, they're excited, the trophy. On the left side, I included that picture. That is the contingency that was part of this rodeo. Participants, everyone that went. So what a great collaboration that is. I mean, that's Transport Care Services, that's RATP Dev, that's the Comet, that's all of us, in one house, one umbrella, basically under one umbrella, just supporting what we do. So what a team, right? To me, I think that's amazing. So that says that says a thousand words right there, just how we unify and rally around each other. Or plus everybody in that picture is competitive, so so it's about winning, right? Winners. So that's awesome to see that. And next year we hope to have some of our board members joining us, and then everyone else, so we even have, wherever we are, an even larger contingency, right? Just going to maintenance, again, Ronnie and his team, we had a successful month again, getting their PMs completed. That's his baby, so he, as he says it, and they do a good job of that. We met our target as far as our mean distance between road calls, so that puts us a nice consecutive run of that. 7 consecutive months, I believe, that we managed to do that. Going into the summer months, so I always get a little nervous when we hit June and July, August when it's real hot, and working through the AC issues and stuff like that sometimes bog us down. But we are mindful of that as we move forward. On-time performance. Well, guess what? We basically tied our best month this month. Now, we would have beaten it if we did not have that construction out on I-77 that pushed all that traffic to the side streets. And we probably would have 79, we'd have been real close. And it's going to impact us this month because it carried over, right? I don't have enough days to make it up. But needless to say, we're leaping forward. Yesterday or the day before, so we had our highest number, I think, to date. Yes, day before yesterday at 84.4. So, like they had that for a whole month, but you got to start one day at a time, right? So anyway, I just wanted to report that. Para had a little tough time, they're usually consistently 90 or better. I don't know if Dennis wanted to chime in on that, but I expect them to bounce right back, as they usually do. So.
Did you want Mr. Franklin to say anything about?
Yeah, I mean, if he,
was there a little blip
maybe to
for
throw that
you,
out
like
there.
the highway construction?
But want to use that one?
Yes, piggybacking off of Lenny, construction. No, I currently, I'm not short drivers, but I'm short of drivers that are available. Because I have so many people that are off for different type of medical reasons. So I'm hoping for them to come back. I can't just replace them. I have to hold their position. So they are starting to trickle back in. So our on-time performance will pick back up. Oh, like Lenny's saying, we've been consistently in the 90s or above, for the past, 2.5 years I've been here. So except for maybe 1 or 2 months. So I guess we can have one blurb every now and then, but we'll get it back up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping one day, maybe we'll put a little wager on it. Then it's one day we're gonna try to beat you guys. I don't know how that's gonna happen.
I'll put a wager on it.
Yeah, one day we're gonna try to. It should never happen. We're gonna give it a run.
Okay.
All right. So.
Is this being recorded?
So, anyway, but again, thanks, Dennis. Yeah, they do consistently a great job, just a little blip, for the month. So no concerns at this point. Looking at our ridership, March of 23 versus 22, pretty nice increase compared to what we were doing last year. Showing on that, we had a stronger month in March of this year versus February. Of course, we had a few more days as well, all right? So you can anticipate that that was gonna be the case. So the alarm would be if we didn't. So, you know, so that number works as well. As far as our average daily ridership, that just kind of gives you an overview. The monthly ridership, but then the number didn't pull over for the average daily. So I'll have to go back in and take a look at that for March and why that didn't pull over. But again, you can see we're stronger this year. Each month of the year, January, February, March, we're stronger than last year. So we're trending, you know, back up in that direction. So, and we'll you know, anxious to see what the summer looks like. If you noticed last year, you know, May and June and July were a little tougher. We should beat those numbers, but you know, the key will be how, to what percentage, you know, so we'll see what that looks like as we move into those hot summer months on their way, right? Gamecock ridership, you know, down versus February. Of course, we had spring break, so we can expect we lost some ridership there. Looking at DART, so DART was up across the board as far as their total ridership, service hours, total miles, you know, for the month of March. And of course, you know, we already spoke about, you know, the on-time performance that's noted here. But they, you know, they continue to do a good job with what they have, and, you know, as far as ridership, you know, just more people are out and about versus what we were doing last year. You know, both on fixed route and para, we both see them. They tend to obviously go the same direction most of the time. You know, consistent. You see when they're moving forward, we're moving forward as well. They're back, we're back. So we kind of tend to follow each other that way. As far as our safety, we had a few more small preventable accidents, and I'll define preventable. So preventable could be an operator, say he making a turn and his mirror may barely touch a pole. That's still considered a preventable fixed accident. You know, so I mean, it could be the most, you know, they're held to very tight guidelines in reference to preventable. So sometimes when you see the accident, they don't necessarily mean they're big accidents. We have a lot of mirror touches. So if your mirror touches anything, you know, because they're outside the actual bus, so you have to take that into consideration and set everything right. That's going to count against you. So we had a few more of those this month, and in January and February we had a fantastic month. We were well, in fact, we had our lowest preventable number last month compared to what we had this month. But what I saw, which is which goes opposite of what I saw here, is that all of our numbers for safety are trending down in the right direction, positively, right? Number of, see, on a customer service area of complaints that are coming in. Also on our drive cam program, I mean, we're probably one of the better divisions using the new drive camera system in RATP Dev as far as coaching and mentoring. So all of those numbers are going in the right direction, but this was up. So it'll be something interesting to watch. We're gonna do some more things to kind of address those small things that happen, right? You know, so these mirror touches are fixed objects. So we can kind of address that. And then again, Mary, which I think I brought her in, introduced her, she has all kinds of stuff going on. So I think right now she has a raffle going. If we don't have any more preventable accidents for the rest of the month, there's a raffle of $150. So everybody's name will go in a big pot, all the operators. And then we pull out the winner, $150 gift card. So,
and the names that go in are the ones that have had no preventable accident.
well, actually, the names, right, because it would be no one exactly at that point. So if there was no accident from, I think it's the 5th through the end of the month, so everybody's name goes in, they didn't have an accident. And then we'll pick out a winner and get a little money in your pocket. So 150 is enough to get people excited. So, right, we're gonna see how it works. I'd rather pay $150 than pay for an accident. of some type that costs a lot more. So I think it's a good investment.
And an added incentive.
An added incentive, yes. Looking at our resources, as far as our head count, we're in good shape. We've made some strides, I've been talking about that. So we are in good shape there, constantly recruiting. So I don't see any issues, at this time. I included on this National Transit Driver Appreciation Day, what we did last month. So had balloons and all kinds of goodies and fun. We like to keep things fun and light. As far as our key performance indicators, we had a good month. We beat our targets in preventables, customer complaints, mean distance between road calls, had a good OTP month. So that closes me out. I'm open for any questions.
Any questions or
Thank you for
comments?
the report. No, thank you for the report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Let's go.
so we'll move on then to the ridership analysis, and Eric and Blake pick up on that.
Yeah, I'll take it as unfortunately, my very last ridership analysis report before handing this words back over to Eric.
It was a new format on last time.
There is a little different this time, yeah. But yeah, just some high level standards from February. Our total monthly ridership was 150,528, which is a 4.3% increase from January. Average daily rider is 21,504, which is a 4.48% increase. Looking at the top 5 routes, of course, not surprising. In this order from least or from most performing to least performing, you've got 801, 501, 101, 701, and 401. But I kind of want to extend to the top 10 because it gets a little interesting. 6th place, we have 301, but 7th place, we actually have 18 red, which is one of the USC transit routes as a radial. So it's pretty interesting that one spiked up there. And of course, followed by a 61, 45, and 20. So good numbers all around for February. And, kind of inversely to that, the bottom 5, starting with the worst performing routes, with the 16, 93X, 24, 44X, and 47. Of course, I know we've got 93X being discontinued in May, and with service cuts to 44X, but it is worth noting these bottom 5 routes are some of the routes with the lowest frequencies as well, with the exception of 24. So that could be a reason why, additionally for low ridership as well for that. Taking a look at the soda cap, I know since we introduced that in January and looking at the numbers for monitoring that, we did see an increase for both the modified routes 1 and 2 from January to February. For January, we had on here 717 for January, with an increase to February of 1209. And then for Route 2, 261 in January, increase to 485. So hopefully, especially for Route 2, that lineage keeps increasing up, and we'll continue monitoring that service as well. Just some general notes as well. I know this is reporting on February, but as we are going into the spring and summer months, hopefully the warmer weather, we'll see some increases in some traffic, some ridership as well. But also worth noting is that as we're going into the summer month, USC Transit will begin to decline for the summer with those reduced routes. So no concern there, but just something to be cognizant of.
Any questions for Blake on that?
What about 12? I want to know how 12 is running. Their ridership
Of course,
increased.
12 is doing pretty good as always, so that's no
Yeah,
surprise.
good. Okay, thank you. You made my day.
Keep it going. Any other questions or comments about the ridership? These are encouraging trends that I'm glad to see. Well, Arlene gets the prize for giving us the most material in our packet. So we'll move on to 5E and let you guide us through that, Dr. Prince.
Okay, starting on page 45 and it goes up through 126 is a copy of our Title VI plan. And as a recipient of federal funds, we're required to have a Title VI plan in place. And it's required to be updated every 3 years. Our last plan was updated in 2020. So 2023, this year's year for us to have updates. The current plan will expire on July 31st this year, but FTA is requesting that we have it to them by June 1st, so they'll have an opportunity to review it before the expiration date. On page, I think it's page 3, there's a list of items that's required to be included in the plan. And one other requirement is that we haven't had in the past is a few more items to be included, and that's because we now operate 50 or more vehicles doing peak service. And that's because of the U of SC route or service that we are providing. So now we're at 50 or more vehicles. So there are some additional documents that are required in the plan. I had a chance to look at some of the changes that we are making. If there's nothing significant, it's just updates like to maps, the number of routes, the number of vehicles. We also included a Spanish customer complaint form. And one of the components of the Title VI plan is to have a LEP, which is Limited English Proficiency Plan. And that's for individuals who do not speak English very well. So we have to have some things in place for that area.
And just for the recording of this discussion, you might just want to say again what Title VI, the focus of Title VI
Okay,
is.
Title VI focuses on saying that we cannot discriminate based on race, color, or national origin.
So it's the plan to assure that we do not.
Right. And we're required to have our Title VI plan on our website. And also, some of the other updates were just updating the board composition and having a public participation process. When we submitted our plan in 2020, the only comment that FTA made dealt with our public participation information that we include in the document. And during that time, we included a copy of the public participation plan from the Central Midlands COG. So they had a little question about how did it really relate, or how could they follow it in terms of how it was impacting the comments. So we kind of like did away with the COG's public participation plan. And I had a chance to work with Ms. Bino Reed, and she gave me some information to fill in for that particular area. So basically, like I said, that it's just minor updates to the plan. There's nothing significant that has changed. And I'm asking that we, for approval from the service committee, to forward this document on to the board for consideration and approval, so we can meet the deadline.
All right, so let me just ask you one question that just when I looked at the very end, I'd gone through this, not in a lot of detail, but
Okay.
with the service performance metrics and travel pattern analysis, that says July 2021. Those are.
Okay, this is a sample, and I talked to Eric, has been working on this, so he just wanted us to go ahead and put a sample in just so that we can meet
So
the
we don't have
requirement.
to give them the most recent.
Well, we can go back and update
Okay.
this.
Okay.
This right here just says an analysis. So I think Eric, you still on the call?
So that was just to let them know how we analyze, not so much to report
Right.
the actual numbers.
Right, that's
That-
correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Because I just worried about that looking like it was
Yes.
old.
And we kind of like, and this is one of the requirements because of having 50 or more vehicles. And so Eric and Blake has been working on this particular area. And we want to go ahead and at least let FTA know this is what we plan on doing. This is just a sample,
I got you.
and we'll update the data.
Okay.
Which,
Okay. All right, so what I need then is a motion to, that we approve the Title VI plan to be forwarded to the full board for approval. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve it to go to the board.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Herbert, and we call the roll for the vote.
Mr. Brennan, Mr. Farges, Ms. Gleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert,
Yes.
Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Mr. Racio.
All right, so that carries. And that leaves us with only item 6. I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, and we'll accept that by acclamation unless I hear an objection. And we are adjourned. Thank you.